Another year of the Angels falling short, but I do think Joe Adell deserves a shout out here. When it came to home runs this year, we all heard about Cal Raleigh and his 60 home runs, Kyle Schwarber, Shohei Ohtani, and Aaron Judge hitting over 50. But did you know that Adell is tied for 8th in homers with 37? That is by far a career high for him, which was 20 before, and he's posted a 486 slugging to go along with it. When it came to my MVP pick for the Astros this year, I personally went with Hunter Brown because he was one of the best pitchers in all of baseball, which really helped the Astros rotation this year with all the injuries they had. But if there were another MVP for the team this year, I would also include Jeremy Pena in that conversation, who had a career year despite injuries, and I feel like it didn't get talked about enough. Over 125 games, he hit 304 with an OPS of 840 while hitting 17 home runs and stealing 20 bases. Along with that, he played great defense at shortstop, ranking 6th in defense among all shortstops. For the A's, I'll go with Shea Langeliers. All the talk this year with the A's has been on Nick Kurtz and the phenomenal season he's had, and rightfully so. Even another rookie, Jacob Wilson, was getting a lot of attention earlier on in the year, but one guy I didn't really hear much about was Langeliers, who put up a heck of a season. He hit 273 with an OPS over 850, along with 31 homers. In fact, he was second in homers among all catchers, only behind Cal Raleigh, who was an absolute freak this year. On to the Blue Jays, and I think Ernie Clement should get some praise here. And sure, not amazing with the bat this year, only posting a WRC plus at 96, but he did hit lefties well, hitting 326 with over a 900 OPS against them. And I'm also looking at the defense here. He was solid all over the infield while posting a fielding run value of 10, and he's posted a 3.0 F4 overall. The Braves had a disappointing year, but one guy who went under the radar was Hurston Waldrop. He got called up earlier in the year, and he put up solid numbers over 10 games, posting an ERA of a 2.88 with a FIP of 3.21, along with close to 9 strikeouts per 9. He'll definitely have a spot in the Braves rotation next year. When it comes to the Brewers, I feel like you could go a million different ways here, but I'm going to go with Abner Uribe. Their closer, Trevor McGill, missed a lot of time with arm issues, but Uribe stepped up in a big way this year and ended up being one of the best relievers in all of baseball. And when it came to relievers, we heard about the likes of Aroldis Chapman and the great year he had with the Red Sox, Mason Miller and Robert Suarez with the Padres, Edwin Diaz with the Mets, Yohan Duran after getting traded to the Phillies, Andres Munoz, and even David Bednar after going to the Yankees. But I don't think I saw one person mention Uribe, who was nasty this year. He had the 3rd lowest ERA among all relievers in baseball this year, with a FIP of 2.75 and just under 11 strikeouts per 9. It was another down year for the Cardinals, but Mason Wynn, I thought, was overlooked a bit. He was another one who wasn't amazing with the bat, only posting a 91 WRC plus with 9 home runs and 9 stolen bases, but the defense was off the charts. When it came to overall defense among any position, he ranked 5th in the majors in defense, and he posted 22 outs above average, which was tied for 2nd overall among all defenders. On to the Cubs, and I'll go with Michael Busch. Now, the Cubs were just a weird team in general this year to give awards to. Now, when it came to MVP, I went with Nico Hoerner over both Kyle Tucker and Pete Crow-Armstrong because of not only his great overall numbers, but his much better second half. And at the same time, I feel like you could go with Hoerner here because there hasn't really been much mention of him outside of Cubs land. But since I went with him for MVP, I'll go with someone different. And I think Michael Busch was definitely overlooked a little bit this year. He had a solid year. He posted a 505 slugging with 32 home runs, which is the 2nd most among first basemen this year and top 10 overall. For the Diamondbacks, I got to go with Geraldo Perdomo, who's had a breakout year. Now, he's been great offensively while playing solid defense at shortstop. He's hit 291 with an OPS of 852, which included a 391 on-base percentage, which ranks 4th in all of Major League Baseball this year. He also had 19 home runs and 27 stolen bases to go along with it, while playing solid defense with 5 outs above average. When it comes to the Dodgers, of course, it's all about Ohtani, Freeman, Betts, Yamamoto, Snell, and when it came to catchers this year, all the attention went to Cal Raleigh, but with Will Smith, I feel like I didn't really hear much about him and the great season that he had. Now, he did go down with a fracture in his hand recently, and if he's not able to come back for the postseason, that's going to be a huge loss for the Dodgers. He posted a career high in WRC+, which ranked 9th overall among all batters with 350 plate appearances, and along with that, he hit 296 with a 901 OPS along with 17 home runs. He also ranked very well when it came to throwing out runners. The Giants had a disappointing year, but they did have one of the best relievers in the game in Randy Rodriguez. Over 50-plus innings, he posted a 1.78 ERA, which ranked 5th overall in all of baseball, while striking out almost 12 batters per nine. Unfortunately, his season got cut short with an elbow injury, but he was very good up to that point, and that's going to be a big loss for the Giants next year. For the Guardians, like the Brewers, I feel like there's a bunch of different ways that you could go here. And also like the Brewers, I'm going to go with a reliever in Cade Smith. Another reliever, apart from the ones that I mentioned earlier, that got a lot of the focus this year, was the one that got put on paid leave in Emmanuel Clase over a gambling investigation. In his place, Smith has absolutely dominated. And actually, when it comes to Fangraph wins above replacement, he's been the best reliever in baseball up to this point with a 2.6. The ERA is at a 3, but the FIP is at a 1.96. This is because he has close to 13 strikeouts per nine with 2.4 walks per nine and only 0.5 home runs per nine. On to the Mariners, and I've mentioned Cal Raleigh a couple of times already. He gets a lot of attention, and rightfully so with the season that he's had, but the Mariners have other players that get a lot of attention, like Julio Rodriguez, Randy Arozarena, along with the two guys they got at the deadline, Eugenio Suarez and Josh Naylor. And don't forget about that rotation. They have one of the best in baseball. You hear about that all the time, and they have one of the best closers in baseball in Andres Munoz. But one guy I never hear about is Gabe Spire. This guy's been so good this year in a setup role. Overall, he's pitched in 75 games, which is the 5th most in the majors, while posting an ERA of 2.51 and a FIP of 2.16, which is the 3rd best in the majors this year. The Marlins exceeded expectations this year by staying in the postseason race in the final week of the season, and one big reason for that has been Kyle Stowers, who had a breakout year, along with Sandy Alcantara, who pitched great in the second half. But one rookie who's hit very well over a small sample size is Jacob Marcy. He's put up solid numbers over 53 games, hitting 302, 372 on base, 495 on the slugging, and a 139 WRC+. On to the Mets, who are doing everything they can to hang on to a postseason spot right now. But one guy who I think has gone under the radar a little bit is David Peterson. He's had a career high in starts this year with 30 and close to 170 innings pitched. And sure, his ERA may be a little high at a 4.22, but the FIP is a lot better at a 3.49. The main reason for that is because he's only allowed 0.6 home runs per nine this year, which is the 3rd lowest in all of Major League Baseball, only behind Paul Skeens and Christopher Sanchez. When it came to rookies this year, we heard about the likes of Nick Kurtz, Roman Anthony, Chase Burns, and even Cade Horton on the Cubs, but one rookie that I feel like went under the radar was Dalen Lyle, who had a bit of a breakout year. Now, when it came to the defense in the outfield, it wasn't all that great, -8 outs above average, but the bat has been very good, hitting 298 with a 345 on base, a 492 on the slugging, and a 130 WRC+, with 8 homers and 8 stolen bases over 89 games. On to the Orioles, who did disappoint this year, but one guy who came out of nowhere was Trevor Rogers. Remember last year after they traded for him, he was terrible and he got sent back down to the minor leagues, but this year, he's been fantastic and one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. In fact, among all pitchers with at least 100 innings pitched this year, he has the 2nd lowest ERA, ahead of Paul Skeens, Tarek Skubal, Garrett Crochet, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and I feel like there's been no mention of it at all. And to go with that, he has a 2.82 FIP with 8.5 strikeouts per nine and a 3.3 F-WAR overall. That's a pace for a 5.5 over 30 starts, which would have been top 5 this year. For the Padres, I'm going to go with Adrian Morejon. Now, the Padres bullpen is absolutely loaded and headlined by Mason Miller and Robert Suarez, but one of the best relievers in all of baseball this year has been Adrian Morejon. Over 73 innings this year, he actually has the most wins among relievers with an ERA of 2.11 and a FIP of 2.30 with 0.25 home runs per nine, the 3rd lowest in all of Major League Baseball. Overall, he has a 2.2 F-WAR, which is the 5th highest among all relievers. On to the Phillies, and I got to go with Bryson Stott. Now, with the bat, not amazing by any means. He's hitting just under 260 with an OPS around 720, but his defense at second base has been great with 6 outs above average. For the Pirates, I feel like anyone besides Paul Skeens can go in this spot, but another pitcher that I think did very well in a smaller sample size is Carmen Mlodzinski. Over just under 100 innings pitched, he posted a 3.55 ERA and a 3.33 FIP, along with 8 strikeouts per nine and only 2.4 walks per nine. On to the Rangers, and all the focus on the pitching side of things has been on Jacob deGrom, but I didn't really hear much about Jack Leiter's season. He's had a tough go ever since getting drafted second overall back in 2021, but this season, this is the best he's looked. Over 29 starts, he had an ERA at 3.86 with 8.7 strikeouts per nine. When it came to the Rays this year, we heard a lot about Junior Caminero, Yandy Diaz, and Brandon Lau in the lineup, Shane Baz, and even Taj Bradley, who got traded on the pitching side of things. And heck, we even heard a lot more about them playing at Steinbrenner Field this year. But one guy who I think quietly had a good rookie campaign was Ian Seymour. 18 games, 53 and 2/3 innings pitched, ERA at a 2.85, FIP at a 3.10, had a decent strikeout rate at just under 9.5 per nine. On to the Red Sox, and lots of talk about Alex Bregman, Roman Anthony, Garrett Crochet, and even the Rafi Devers trade this year. But one guy who was huge for them this year was Romy Gonzalez. He did most of his damage against left-handers, hitting over 330 with an OPS of 978 against them. But he also did okay against righties, hitting 286 against them. The Reds somehow, someway found themselves in the wild card mix on the final weekend, and one guy who I think deserves a lot of credit is TJ Friedl. Sure, you got a star like Ellie De La Cruz in the lineup and one of the best rotations in baseball, but Friedl was one of the best table setters out there with a 365 on-base percentage, which ranked 16th among all qualified batters. For the Rockies, I got Jimmy Herget, who was an absolute workhorse this year. He tossed 82 1/3 innings pitched going into the final weekend, which ranked third among all relievers. And to go with that, he posted a pretty solid ERA at a 2.51 with 8.6 strikeouts per nine. For the Royals, I think you could go a few different ways here, but if I had to go with one, I would lean towards Maikel Garcia. We hear all about Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, and Salvador Perez in the lineup, but I feel like Garcia quietly had one of the best breakout seasons this year. Overall this year, he's got a 5.6 F-WAR, hitting 286, a 352 on base, a 449 in the slugging, a 121 WRC+, 16 homers, 23 stolen bases, while playing fantastic defense. I know the Tigers are hanging onto their pants right now, but I got to shout out catcher Dylan Dingler this year. With the Tigers, we've heard all about Skubal, Torkelson, Riley Green, Gleyber Torres, but Dingler actually has the second highest F4 on the team at a 4.1. He's been solid this year on both sides of the ball. He's hitting 278, 325 on base, 426 slugging, 13 homers, a 109 WRC+, but he's been very good defensively with a 12 fielding run value, which does rank 11th in all of Major League Baseball. It was a tough year for the Twins, which did include a fire sale at the deadline, but one guy who looked fantastic over a small sample size was Luke Keeschel. Now, he did miss some time with a broken arm and a thumb injury that ended his season, but over 49 games, he put up some really good numbers. Hit 302 with a 382 on base, and actually, among all rookies with at least 200 plate appearances, that ranked third overall, only behind Roman Anthony and Nick Kurtz. Had a 445 slugging and a 134 WRC+ to go along with it. The White Sox are still far away from contention, but one rookie who I feel like quietly showed a lot was Colson Montgomery. Now, he only hit 231 with a 303 on base, but had 20 home runs this year, and that ranks third among all rookies, and that was over less than half a season. Last but not least, for the Yankees, I'm actually going to go with Jazz Chisholm here. Now, all the talk has been on Aaron Judge and the phenomenal season that he's had, but with all the focus being on him, I wonder how many people realize that Jazz has had a 30-30 season. In fact, only 5 other players have a 30-30 season going into the final weekend, including Juan Soto, Jose Ramirez, Pete Crow Armstrong, Corbin Carroll, and Francisco Lindor. It's the best season of his career, and I feel like we haven't really heard too much about it. But everybody, those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down below. Who do you think are the most underrated players in baseball this year? Let me know down below in the comments. But everybody, that's all I got for right now. If you can on the way out, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.